So there's the two we talked about. And you've got Arabica on the left and Robusta or Canephora on the right. So about 60% of the world population is the Arabica, 40% is Robusta, as you can see there. Yeah. The advantage to Robusta is you don't need the elevation. You can grow it at lower altitudes. It's more disease resistant, as I said before. But it doesn't taste as good, I don't think. We have one coffee blend that we use Robusta in, and that's, and we can try it today if you want. It's called Tenebrae, which is our darkest roast. And I tend to use it in the espresso machine to make espresso. Because espresso, a lot of times you're adding milk, right? Different milk drinks, that can really mask the coffee because the milk fats are so heavy on the palate that you just don't taste. So maybe Robusta there. Double the caffeine by volume. So it tends to have more caffeine. And it is used in instant coffee for that reason. But Arabica is what we're going to focus on. Higher elevation. It's more delicate. It's harder to grow. It's more susceptible to disease, but it tastes better. So it can be sweeter, brighter, or more body. And we can talk about all those things. But typically a little bit lower caffeine, about half. Again, by volume or by weight, if you like. All right. So I didn't give you any pictures. I should have done that. But you've got some of the fruit, and you can see these things online. There's a cherry. It's grape-sized. There's multiple layers before you can get to the actual bean. And so a lot of the expensive coffee isn't the growing. It's actually the processing. It's to get to that cherry. So they go from green to red or sometimes yellow and orange. You'll see that too. The more ripe it is, the more sugar, of course, just like a fruit. And that sugar actually affects the bean as well, as does the way that you're going to process it. There's two halves and they're put together, right? And then they're separated when they're processed. But sometimes you have just one round seed. Those are some of my most popular coffees. They're called pea berry. So it's actually a deformity, but they can be really something else. I didn't bring any pea berry right at the moment. So from the same crop, you'll have different sized beans, and you'll maybe have some pea berries as well, and then as well defective beans. So those all get sorted as part of the processing, and they're sorted by hand. So again, expense adds on top of that. Typica is a variety from the Dutch. There's some of those around. That's a kind of Arabica. Bourbon, people like to buy this because they think it says bourbon, and the coffee is going to taste like whiskey. And it's like, just buy whiskey if you want coffee that tastes like whiskey. Or add whiskey to your coffee. You could do that too. Yeah, right. That's another Typica mutation, which is a subspecies of Arabica. One of the most popular is the Kenyan, the SL28. Kenya is unique because their university, the University of Kenya, has a breeding program. So SL28, SL14, these are varieties that are grown only in Kenya. They're exclusively owned by the Kenyan university / probably government. It's probably more socialist that way. They're very amazing. Kenya is doing a lot of the work then to try to improve Arabica so that it is more disease resistant and pest resistant as well. That's coming out of Kenya. And then the last line, have anybody heard of Geisha coffee or Geisha? Yeah. That's a very, very specific sub-variety, and they are very hard to grow, and they're very expensive usually. I'm just trying to get a number in my head. What would a typical, like if I would charge $20 for a bag, a Geisha would be like $50 for the same amount. Yeah, so probably 2 to 2.5 times more expensive. And it's typically roasted very light. It does not like to be roasted very dark. So it's almost like, it is like drinking tea, except it's coffee.
Europe gets all their coffee then? Because they're not in that area.
Yeah, so they have to import it. So Europe was because of the trade routes with like the tea companies, like what is it, East India?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Silk Road, and they were bringing coffee in from Africa and from Asia primarily. The coffee wasn't native to South Central America, but it was brought with the increase of trade. Different people argue about where the birthplace of coffee is. Yeah, and there's different legends, of course. So one, it's an argument between Ethiopia and Yemen. So if you ever want to, see a fight, put a Yemenese person and an Ethiopian person, same room, and say who was the inventor of coffee. I guess, I don't know. Yemenese coffee is hard to get because they seem to be under civil war all the time. So depending on what part of Yemen, you might be able to get some out. I've had some, but the Ethiopian coffee, pretty good. You just Ethiopia, the ports are controlled by gangsters, so you just have to pay everybody to get it out. That's most of African coffee, East African coffee especially. Kenya's a little bit better. Their port is government controlled, which is just an official mob controlled. So there have been 3 big waves of coffee. Everybody remembers Juan Valdez?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what they call first wave.
Mountain growing.
Exactly. This is regional blend coffee. So you'll take the whole growing region of Brazil. They basically created it was socialism, but everybody contributed their coffee to the big pot, and then the marketing team, said, here's how we can market this. There's Juan Valdez, and everybody's going to say, oh, we want Juan Valdez coffee. And they put a name or a face to the coffee. Thankfully now, especially with the internet, but even just with global trade, you can have a face and a name to a coffee grown in the mountains anywhere, right? You can even correspond with them, right? It's not hard, whereas it used to be. Anyway, the first wave, that's what it was. It was primarily countries or large growing regions, and it was mass marketed to Americans primarily. That was the big deal. Europe had been drinking coffee for a few hundred years. If you're Lutheran, famous Lutheran composer, Johann Sebastian Bach, everybody heard of them?
Yeah.
But known for his church music, but also composed secular music, and he did a secular cantata called the Coffee Cantata. And it's this woman with her she's leaving her husband because she loves her coffee so much, or something like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and it's a joke. It's supposed to be funny. It's like a 20-minute cantata. It's really funny.
There you go.
So if you ever see the meme, that coffee fueled the Reformation, Calvinists use that meme, Lutherans use that meme. It's not actually true. Coffee didn't come to Europe for about another 100 years, but it was the big thing by the time of Bach. So the coffee culture, going to the cafe, it's roasted there, the whole deal. This is hundreds of years ago. So it was definitely more popular in Europe than it was here.
So it's post-medieval? It was like
Yeah.
Renaissance?
Yeah, it's definitely Renaissance coffee. Coffee's Renaissance. Because you have free market, you have trade. These are all things that came in the Renaissance. Luther talks about them in the Large Catechism, but he's not a big fan. But that's really what enabled that kind of widespread trading. Some of that was already happening at the time of the Reformation, because you have like the Spaniards, right? Sailed the ocean blue, 1492.
Yeah.
Reformation's 1517.
Yeah,
Right. So that whole free market, free trade, nations importing things, that was happening. All right. So there we got all sorts of information.